A pleasant day, everyone. So now I am going to discuss the fundings and resources in the education system in the Philippines and in Malaysia. But first, let us discuss what is in Malaysia in the government expenditure as a percentage of GDP. So based from our presentation, Philippines, government expenditure on education total percent of GDP in Philippines was reported at 3.6237% in 2023, according to the World Bank collection of development indicators. So now in Malaysia, we have here the government expenditure on education. Total percent of GDP in Malaysia was reported in 3.6272% in 2023, and that is according to the World Bank collection of development indicators compiled from officially recognized sources. Now, let us further discuss and elaborate what is really in the government expenditure as a percentage of GDP in the education system in the Philippines. Now, let us discuss further what is in the government expenditure as a percentage of GDP in the Philippines and Malaysia. But first, in the Philippines. So, based from the Presidential Communication Office, education remains the top priority in the 6.32 trillion national budget in the year 2025 as President Marcos Jr. signed into law. So, it is really evident that education is really the top priority here in the Philippines. So, in the education sector, from the 6.32 trillion national budget, there is an allotted 1.05 trillion budget in the education sector. So, now let us know how much or how many is the budget in the education sector in Malaysia. So, Malaysia invests a larger share of its national income in education. The government invests in the education system increases every year, and almost 30% from the national budget of the year are allocated for education. So in Malaysia, all funds for the schools came from the central government, just like here in the Philippines. The fund in the education comes from the government, specifically when it is in public schools, right? So the funds are divided for each sectors in education, such as for development process or purposes, textbook printing, school assets, psychology and counseling, advertisement, curricular development, and also the matriculation and national exam purpose. So, the budget last year, 2024 in Malaysia is about RM 8.7 billion in 2024. And now, in the year 2025, do you know that their national budget, or their educational budget is RM 64.1 billion to the education sector? Now, where will this be used? Saan nga ba ito gagamitin? Itong 64.1 billion na budget sa education in Malaysia. So, their budget will be used in terms of the upgrade and mainstream of the school. There is an allotted budget, the 2 billion will be used for the upgrade and maintenance of the schools. And there are also 44 construction of new schools and 100 million to expand the internet access in rural the internet access for the school in the rural school. And there is also a 5.3 billion set aside for education assistance, such as hostel food assistance and for the low-income families. Now, let us move on the availability of school facilities and teaching materials in the Philippines and in Malaysia. But first, let us know what are the school facilities and teaching materials. So these are the common teaching materials and facilities in the Philippines. First, we have the school buildings, school furniture and equipment, libraries, clinic, science laboratories, ICT room, textbooks, and learning modules. So in Malaysia, these are the common facilities and learning materials or teaching materials. First, classroom, of course, libraries, science laboratories, computer labs, sports facilities, textbook, digital resources, and they also have initiatives to enhance education. They have three: the ECELAS, the CERDIK initiatives or the CERDIC initiatives, and lastly, the School Solar Project. Now, let us further discuss what are the issues, challenges, and let us also elaborate these initiatives to enhance education in Malaysia. So in the Philippines, the current situation and challenges is identified by the Vice President and the former DepEd Secretary Sara Duterte. She said that the school infrastructures and facilities is experiencing the most pressing issue here in the country's education sector. Why? Based from her in her 2023 Basic Education Report, out of the 327,851 school buildings in the national education, there is a 100,072 that is in need of minor repair. So, in the 89,252, there is also requiring a major repairs. And in 21,727 are set for condemnation. Only 3,637 out of the planned 6,300 new classrooms have been built, and only 4,542 was repaired. So, it has also said that there is a 75% of public schools that is lack of access in electricity. Now, imagine here in the Philippines, though our top priority is our education, there are still challenges and issues that we are currently facing. And it is for our government to solve because we are depending on the national budget and education, right? So in terms of the facilities and in the buildings, the school infrastructure, teachers cannot get or cannot have the full accountability on that. So now let us move on the Malaysia's availability of schools facilities and teaching materials. So let us give an emphasis on their initiatives to enhance education. The first is the ECELAS. So what is this ECELAS? ECELAS is a Maxis flagship community program. This is a website, okay? An online website, an online platform that provides the access to digital learning content to Malaysian students. It was launched in 2017, focusing science, math, English for Year 4 to Form 5 students. So, aside from 3,000 hours live tutorials online, it has more than 2,100 self-developed learning materials, and it includes notes, videos, and worksheets that can be accessed in the ECELAS portal for free. So there is also ebooks and audiobooks. They have 10,000 ebooks and 5,000 audiobooks. So the second one is the CERDIK initiative. So what is this? This is a corporate responsibility digital initiative by a government-linked company and government-linked investment company. So it aims to provide digital access to students from lower income families by equipping them with laptops, tablets, and data plans. Lastly, the School Solar Project. So from the word solar, I know that we are all aware what is solar means. So, this initiative focuses on implementing solar hybrid systems in rural schools in terms of providing them light and electricity. So, in terms of how Malaysian people, specifically the education sector, people in the education sector in Malaysia, they are really prioritizing those students who are in the lower income families or in the rural school, and that is really a good opportunity for them to experience the quality education for all. Now, let us move on the teacher-student ratio and teachers' qualification in the education system in the Philippines and in Malaysia. But first, let us discuss in the Philippines. So, based from our presentation, we have here the teacher-student ratio in the Philippines and the teacher-student ratio in Malaysia. So, in the Philippines, as you can see in the preschool, we have here 25:1 student-to-teacher ratio from the Executive Order number 349. And in preschool teacher, their teacher's qualification is they should have a Bachelor of Science in Education, major in Early Childhood Education, or bachelor's degree holders with 18 ECE units. So, in the SPED, the Special Education Program, we have here the 15:1 student-to-teacher ratio based from the SPED handbook. So, if you want to become a SPED teacher, you should have a Bachelor of Science in Education, major in Special Education, or bachelor's degree holders with 18 units in SPED. Now, in terms of in primary school, they have 35:1 student-teacher ratio based from the DepEd itself. But since we are lack of classroom, of school facilities, of course, the primary school, specifically in elementary and in high school, they are exceeding from the preferred class size of the DepEd. So, the standard teaching credential is a 4-year bachelor's degree, followed by passing the licensure examination for teachers, and elementary school teachers are qualified through a Bachelor of Elementary Education, and secondary school teachers through a Bachelor of Secondary Education. And in non-education graduates may need to complete at least 18 units of professional education courses to qualify for the LAT or the licensure examination for teachers. So now, in Malaysia, here are the student-teacher ratio and also the teacher's qualification. So, in elementary school, they have 12.1 students. And in secondary level, they have 11.6 students to teacher ratio. So, in elementary school teachers, if you want to become an elementary school teacher in Malaysia, you should have these credentials. The Bachelor of Teaching Program or the PISMP at Institute of Teacher Education, 4-year undergraduate program with practical teaching and observation, licensed to teach after registering with Educational Services Commission or the SPP. An alternative can be a 2 to 3-year diploma in education program. So if you want to become a secondary school teacher in Malaysia, you should have this. Teaching degree from public university, for example, the Sultan Idris Education University, and a 4-year undergraduate program with supervised teaching practices and bachelor's degree in education or teaching. And alternative can be a postgraduate diploma in education, and for non-education graduates, we have the Teach for Malaysia or the TFM.